via, via, vieni via di qui. Niente più.
As I remember, as a young child, Mom always made our pasta by hand. And even in Italy today, the traditional method is having your mound of flour where you would create the little well, which she had done many a time, and as a young girl made raviolis with her twice a week. And we'll go into that procedure lately, but she would begin by doing her well of flour, breaking her eggs, and this is 1 pound of flour and 5 large eggs. So this is her usual simple method of making her pasta, which is still, as I say, done in many Italian homes in Italy. Then she would take her fork. Now we're just doing 1 pound. Mom did a 5-pound batch, so you can imagine the size. Then as you're gradually beating the eggs, you begin to incorporate the size of the flour. And gradually mix the flour into the eggs to create the actual dough. If you happen to have a leak in the volcano here, just take the flour and patch it up. But as we're doing right now, this is the age-old tradition that Mom used to do and what they still do in Italy today in many of the old Italian homes. Okay, and as you see, we're gradually getting in. And I will note that the eggs should be at room temperature so that they kind of gel in. Now, once I have enough of the eggs incorporated to the flour, I begin to gather the rest of the flour into the eggs and pat it. And we still have a little bit of liquid coming out, but eventually this lovely little mass will become this magnificent pasta dough. And here at Clara's, when we first began, I wanted our restaurant to be kind of different from any other Italian restaurant. And because of Mom's original pasta making for all her ravioli, I thought we had to have a fresh pasta restaurant. And so therefore today, Clara's tradition, or Mom's tradition, continues here at Clara's. Okay, now we're just incorporating the egg and the flour in order to create our dough. And this is the total labor of love. This is what Mom used to do, as I said, twice a week with a 5-pound batch of dough. And we'll take this nice little bench scraper is great getting it all together. Don't worry about the sticky hands. It'll all get incorporated. And what we're doing is just simply, with the heels of our hands, just pushing that dough back and forth and incorporating. All these little bits and pieces, and we'll get all of this on my hand right into our dough very shortly. So this is how we make pasta with just 1 pound of flour, 5 eggs, and your hands. A total labor of love for the family. Now all this good stuff here we want to get in there, so I'll just roll it off the hands, get a little bit of flour. The dough is really quite not soft, but easily kneaded. If it is too wet, we just add a little bit more flour, but this one is just perfect. And all we do is bring the dough together or toward you and push it away with the heels of your hand. Toward, heels, push away. Turn it a quarter turn toward you, heels away. Do that a couple of times. Turn, quarter turn toward you. And as you're doing You can, if you feel a little slight stickiness to it, just a tad of flour is all you need. Again, I'm going to try and get what we have. This is all too good to lose. And you would need this for a few minutes, and you can tell as it's coming together, it's getting smoother and smoother. And then all we're going to do is bring it around, kind of roll it to get all of the ends and everything together so it's kind of like in a nice little ball. I'm going to kind of flatten it a tad. I'm going to get a little plastic wrap. Little extra sound effect. Put a little bit of flour, wrap it with your wrap, and allow the pasta dough to rest for a good 20 minutes, half hour, or until you're ready to roll it out. Okay, now that we've let the pasta dough rest for about a half hour, we're going to just take a portion of it just to show you how to roll it out. Take your little bench cutter, or dough cutter here, and we're just going to take a small roll right now just to show the procedure that Mom did by hand, so that if you don't have a pasta machine, always keep dough wrapped, as a matter of fact. Get this into a flattened air motion here. And you're just going to lightly flour your surface. And you're going to start to roll out your dough by hand. Now, when we were making the raviolis at the restaurant, Mom would roll out 2 large rounds of the dough. She would put one out first and put it on the table beside her and put a tablecloth over that. Then she would roll out the second one. Then I would be the one who took the ricotta and put 125 dollops of the ricotta on a row. Then she would proceed to put the top layer of the pasta over the ravioli, and then with a fork we would go up and down and press it. Take the ravioli cutter, cut them, and that was the procedure we did twice a week. Then one evening I was helping my friend whose father owned the pastry shop just 3 stores down from our restaurant. We were folding boxes, and her father was putting dollops of cookie dough on a cookie sheet. And I thought, wow, that looks like the dollops of ravioli that I did with the spoon. So I said to her dad, I says, please, Mr. Mamabelli, can you buy me one of those pastry bags? I'm like 10 years old, had never seen a pastry bag before, but all I knew was those little dollops of the cookie dough on that cookie sheet certainly resembled our ravioli. So the next time we made ravioli, I took out the pastry bag. I filled it with the ricotta, and I started to make the little dollops on in each row. And my mom says, oh my God, you're going to ruin my ravioli. But at any rate, what is happening today at Clara's, 2014, all these years later, we're still using the pastry bag for lasagna, for manicotti, for stuffed shell. So a little tad of the history of the pastry bag. What I'm doing here is rolling out the dough. Mom used to have a stick that was like a dollop, an inch wide, all the way across, that she had, and did similarly what I'm doing. You would add very little flour, but just to prevent it from sticking. And this dough is just perfect because once you let it relax and the gluten relaxes in that flour, it's amazing. And she would do it, and this is what I always like, that little flap. that I couldn't do that flap for a long time, but it did a little extra stretching. Now see, I'm getting a little thin in the center here, a little stickiness, but just ever so little. Okay, alrighty. Okay, now what you're doing is you want to try to roll out the dough to the thinness that you want, that we're going to make, as you will see in a minute, without any machinery. Pasta dough that you make by hand. That is the traditional, oops. And what I'm doing is I'm gently rolling a little to the side so that we kind of distribute it. And I'm constantly doing a little quarter turn because my center is good, but the edges are still a tad thick. And so I want to try to bring that all together so we have the same thickness throughout. Again, quarter turn. Okay. And you have it rolled out to the thickness that you want. Now we're going to put a fairly generous amount of flour on top. And then we're going to, oh, I know what I want to do. Here, one sec. When it's rolled up, let's put a little layer of flour underneath here. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to gently roll this over. And we want to make fettuccine. So what we do is take our trusty little knife. Well, these are wide fettuccines. That's a wider fettuccine. If you want a narrower one, cut them a little closer. And you have fettuccine. If you want a linguine, and again, when they make homemade pasta in Italy today, in many of the Italian homes, this is exactly what they do, is their egg pasta. So we could have our little linguine. And then if you want angel hair, it's ever so little. So this is what we can do with just that flour, eggs, and pasta. Now, if you wanted to make pappardelle, you would just make a longer noodle. I wanted to get another. This could be a pappardelle. But then I wanted to do a tortellini. So I'm going to open up. I'm going to take just a square. If we wanted to make a little tortellini, we get a little square of pasta. I'm going to moisten the four sides. I'm going to take my ricotta filling or my meat filling, whatever filling we want. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to bring the little corners together as a little triangle. Press it down, and the water will help it to seal. Then we're going to take it and then just roll it around our finger. And with a little tab of water here, we're going to make a little tortellini or a little capellini. So we have a little tortellini. Now, if we were going to make ravioli or lasagna, you could use the same pasta dough as a flat sheet. But for a ravioli, again, we could put the little dollops of ricotta, which I'll take from our little filling here. And then what I like to do, just to secure it, and you could do this with your pastry brush, just to get the moisture. And of course, your ricotta will stay in place. And then we're going to bring this over. And with your pastry cutter, you're going to then create your little ravioli indentations. And then, of course, with a pastry cutter, you would cut them and have your little raviolis. And or as we did it with Mom, we would have to press the sides with your fork. And you could have little raviolis or raviolis at whatever size you needed. And that's from the simple pasta with eggs and flour, creating all of the homemade specialties without any machinery, without any electricity, just flour, eggs, and your hands, and lots of love. Okay, now that we've had our pasta dough rested and we've showed how to do it by hand, a very simple and easy method is using the pasta attachment that goes with the KitchenAid. And what we do is take a portion of the rested pasta dough, and we'll cut it and flatten a little and put it to our widest setting, which is 1. Okay, and then turn on the machine. I'll pass it through twice to get a thickness, and then I will cut it in half. Just put just a smattering of flour on there, and set it to the middle setting, and pass it through again. And now I will set it at, I would say, number 5 on this setting for its thinnest pasta that we want for the fettuccine, for the linguine set. And as you can see now, we have this beautifully thin pasta that can be our next. We will remove the roller, and you can, I guess there's 2 settings that come. If you want to make your fettuccine, you would put on the fettuccine cutter, set it in, and as we did it by hand, or if you do it with the pasta roller, that is the hand roller, this is where you would take it to, and then And here we have fettuccine. If you use the linguine, you would have just change the dye to that and have your linguine. Just to give you an idea how we did it with Mom way back when, with the dollop of ricotta. Again, 125. But then, having seen, just 1 minute, let me just get my pastry bag, sorry. That was then. This is now. As you can see, much easier. And then what we can do, because we're doing it by hand, I'm going to just put a little dollop of the water there, and a pastry brush would be perfect. And we're going to, if I had made this wide enough, which we haven't, but that's okay, we're going to pretend. We would roll over the filling, of course being generous with the filling. Press it down, and then of course with the cutter, which I'm going to do just simply doing this. Just take the ravioli or the fork and then just a little pinch so they won't explode. And that is our ravioli. So we have ravioli, fettuccine, linguine, all fresh pasta dough. Enjoy. Buon appetito.
Via, via, vieni via di qui. Niente più ti lega a questi.